Hello to everybody. It is a great pleasure and honor to have this opportunity to talk about my research. My presentation is divided into 3 sections. First, I will introduce the project I have been doing during the last 4 years, which can be called Relational Paradigm. My claim is that in the context of globalization, increasing migration, etc., we need better theories to understand what is going on in current world. And I think relational paradigm makes an attempt to provide a better theory. Second section will focus on previous attempts within the relational paradigm at operationalizing certain key concepts and measuring integration processes. And the third one will present the theoretical statement of the project I've been doing and some empirical results. So the presentation has 2 aims. On the one hand, to outline our theoretical approach, and on the other hand, to illustrate this theoretical approach on the material in Estonia, particularly integration monitoring. So I've been engaged in integration monitoring research for a number of years, and the empirical case I'll be describing at the end of my presentation is based on the last integration monitoring. But first, here is a short introduction to DIMA project, which is financed by Norwegian Research Council. We are very grateful to Norwegian Research Council about this opportunity we had during last 4 years. So, relational paradigm in social sciences. Yesterday, I enjoyed very much the presentation of Milton Bennett. My feeling is that our approaches are quite close. There are also some differences. But if you look broader picture in different social sciences, you see that relational paradigm is becoming more and more popular. You have relationalism in sociology, you have relational approach in psychology, in political science, economics, in geography, etc., etc. And behind all these attempts is a kind of perception, feeling that we are not doing well enough in theorizing and also in researching, in measuring phenomena related to intergroup relations. So let us have a look on previous research based on relational approach. One of the most well-known scholars is Roger Brubaker. In 1996, he processed a famous volume, Reframing Nationalism, in which he came up with the idea of processual theoretical language instead of substantialist language. Basically, he claimed that his approach is based on Bourdieusian social ontology. Now, if you look on literature, you see that there is a lot of criticism of Brubaker, and particularly insightful review was written by Sousa Serga in an article in Nations and Nationalism 2008, which just concluded that empirical research carried out by Brubaker is not convincing. His claim regarding the need to reject groupness is problematic, and particularly Sousa emphasized that what we need to do is we need to work with the concept of mobilization. And actually, in our case, this has been a kind of starting point. We took up this point, and in the project in DIMA, this was a kind of central idea. There are some other examples in literature criticizing this kind of relationalist approach represented by Brubaker, particularly Calhoun in the journal Ethnicities in 2009. There was extremely interesting exchange between Brubaker and Calhoun. Then Martin Ehala, who made excellent presentation yesterday, just recently, he published a volume with Rutledge. And in the introduction of this volume, he also analyzes Brubaker in the same line as Sousa has done. So, in DIMA project, we claim that actually the attempt of Brubaker remains on rhetorical level. He claims that he is using Bourdieu, and he is using certain terminology of Bourdieu, but he does not operationalize this terminology to empirical research. I do not have time to go into theoretical details. Just the claim from this slide is that Brubaker's anti-essentialism goes too far. What we need instead is a kind of moderate essentialism, and what is the meaning of moderate essentialism I'll explain later on in my presentation. Now a few words regarding how we came to the notion of positioning, which is our attempt to work with the concept of mobilization. We started from Frederick Barth, who is a kind of revolutionary figure in interethnic research, and who claimed that the concept ethnicity should be defined not along cultural characteristics, but along social organization of intergroup relations. This is fundamentally different ontology. Now, what Project DIMA does, we claim that we take the interactionist approach of Barth a step further, because there are problems also within his approach. He's focusing on construction of social differences, but there is very good criticism by, for example, Eugène Rouzens and other people who claim that actually you forget about belongingness, not only construction of social differences, but also belongingness and origins are important aspect of intergroup relations. So, and we have been working along these lines. Our aim has been to replace a kind of rigid notion of mobilization used by Brubaker and many others in literature by substituting this notion by the notion of positioning strategies, which can be found in Bourdieu, in social psychology, Harre, Kenneth Gergen, and very many other people. So, just to give you an example of the limitations of the current mainstream approach regarding research on national identity. Here is a standard example of scales used in literature. And in questionnaires, the question is that, first it is said that people can think of themselves in different ways. How do you think of yourself? Answers, I think myself as ethnic, as national, etc. Other type of question, I feel that I'm part of ethnic culture. I'm proud of being part of ethnic culture. The same about nation, etc., etc. This is a kind of approach based on feeling of belongingness. Our claim is that there are problems with this kind approach, which focuses just on psychological processes. If you ask this kind of questions, you are just focusing on psychological processes, but what is important in interethnic relations is also social basis of psychological processes. And if you go along this kind of approach, you find that usually minorities have lower levels of national identity as compared to majority population. And this finding is interpreted in terms of defiance of the national norm. So this is a crucial point in our argumentation. We claim that the phenomena, which is mostly byproduct of social inequality, social relations in society, is reframed as psychological problem of a particular group. So this is a starting point, or the problem we would like to overcome. And I just would like to explain how we did it in DIMA project and to demonstrate some empirical result. It can be explained very shortly along two steps. First, you need to construct your research object. This is a basic Bourdieusian recommendation. You do not start from empirical facts as given. You need to construct your research object. As Bourdieu says, you need to fight for facts. And this example just describes how it can be done. Let us presume that there is a empirical survey. There is Estonian respondent and there is a Russian respondent. And the question is regarding, let's say it is Estonia question is regarding ethnic inequalities in labor market. Everybody in Estonia knows that there are ethnic inequalities. Salaries are about 20% higher. Estonians take higher positions, etc., etc. And let's presume that both Estonian respondent and Russian respondent answer that they think that there should be equal opportunities in labor market despite ethnic background of people. So our next crucial claim is that in this context, if we take into account this hierarchy which exists in reality, the identical answers we heard or we fixed in our questionnaire of the two respondents both said that there should be equality. These identical answers should be interpreted as actually different answers because majority and minority representatives, they are located in different positions in social hierarchy. The answer of the Estonian respondent actually means that he's willing to give up certain ethnic privileges which are existing in Estonia. The answer of the Russian respondent means that he would like to improve the status of his in-group. So, in this context, verbally identical answer means actually totally different things. Now, second step is construction of different survey questions. If we agree that there is asymmetrical social field in which one question is answered similar way, but it has to be interpreted in different ways, this means that we have to formulate different questions, different questionnaire questions in our survey questionnaire for both groups. And I just demonstrate example from our last integration monitoring 2017 for dominating majority group. Strong national identity means that the respondent says that in his opinion we should overcome ethnic hierarchies and vice versa. If respondent does not agree to this statement, then this is we interpret it as weak national identity. Now, dominated minority group, orientation directed at acceptance of certain group rights of majority is defined as strong national identity. For example, take example of Estonian flag. It is a very ethnic symbol, and our interpretation is if minority accept that this is this is our symbol, this is a expression of strong national identity. So, and we have operationalized these ideas into the following national identification summation index. Both in case of majority group and minority group, it included 3 statements. If you take Estonian Russians, I feel pride when I see the Estonian flag. Estonian state protects my rights and offers public services, etc. And in case of Estonians, we need to know the opinions of Estonian Russians better, etc., etc. So you see that these questions are located on asymmetrical social field and are targeted towards challenges both groups are facing. As the challenges are different, also the questions are different. So this is just a technical description how we did this summation index. It was 3 statements. All statements were given maximum 3 points. So 9 points was maximum, 3 points was minimum. And here is a definition of strong, intermediate, and weak national identity. Here is the empirical result. You have Russians, you have Estonians, weak, intermediate, and strong national identity. And actually, if you look on these numbers, it is a kind of provocation for taken for granted understanding, because what this table says is that national identity of Estonian Russians in Estonia is somewhat higher as compared to ethnic Estonians. This goes against our everyday understanding of things. And the last slide, just to conclude, what we did is we constructed a research object and we got findings along relational theoretical language. I go back to the table. If you look on this table, what is a research object in this case? The research object in this case is a symmetrical field of intergroup relations in Estonia as a whole. Our object is not separate subgroups. Basically, we have here big blocks like Estonians as a block and the Russians as a block. And within both blocks, we have differentiated 3 segments, weak, intermediate, and strong. But the research object is not these blocks or segments as isolated phenomena, but as part of asymmetrical intergroup field in Estonia as a whole. This is fundamentally different understanding of the research object. What we are describing Estonian society as a whole. This table, in a sense, represents the field, the social or intergroup field in Estonia. The numbers represent what is going on in different sections of the field. Of course, this kind of construction of research object presumes also different type of causality, not linear causality, which is presumed in mainstream literature, but meaning-based causality, which can be studied along positioning. So our claim is that what we are studying is not the mental states, just mental states of people. The answers given to our questionnaire, it is not only mental states of people. It is social positioning of people, and of course, this mental part is one of the aspects. We do not throw out mental aspect, psychological aspect, but our claim is that this aspect has to be considered in the context of social field. And clearly, you see that if you take this kind of approach, you take fundamentally different empirical results as compared to mainstream research. In this sense, it can be argued also that it is a political statement. What has been done here is also a political statement. And it is very, very clear that we, as researchers, are part of society. Our position taking is, on the one hand, it is based on our analytical scheme, our theoretical options, etc., etc. At the same time, it is located in society. It is interpreted and very often also misinterpreted by society. So, thank you very much.